Cog Psych Prof! Cog Psych Prof in the house! What? Boom, boom! Look at that! Smooth as butter! Awesome. Great timing, Cog Psych Prof. Welcome in. For those of you who are my students who are not familiar with Cog Psych Prof, or you're just new, you stumbled in, he is an excellent psychology educator, Twitch streamer. His specialization is in all things cognition, as the name suggests, right? As the name suggests. So I thought it would be super wonderful if we brought in the expert and the Twitchverse when it comes to cognition and cognitive biases. So at any moment, you're like,
yeah, in Twitch EDU, I think I am.
You're like, I'm the king.
That'll be my niche. Yeah, exactly.
You could be the king with this. I love it. So at any point, you guys, as we're chit-chatting, feel free to put in your questions in the chat. I'm going to keep my eye on it. But in the meantime, Cog Psych Prof, welcome. Mm-hmm. And my first...
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, dude. I've been wanting to do this for some time because, like, why not?
Yeah, I would love to have you guest lecture in a class where I can find it.
Yeah,
on
absolutely,
IO.
Man.
On
IO, cool, yeah.
Because some of my current students really want to do IO, and I'm like, I know some people, and I really need to.
It's like, I know a little bit of that, but it's probably better if I point you in a direction of somebody who really knows.
I know way less than you think.
Isn't that true for a lot of things? Like when somebody comes to me with like clinical stuff, I'm like, I have some ideas, but let me point you to a therapist. Like, I'm not that kind of doctor. I don't know, right? My first question to you, and I felt like I just had to ask, okay? The sexiest bias there is, in your opinion?
The sexiest, so like what brings in the clicks?
Yeah.
What brings in the reads?
Yeah, as my daughter walks a little naked in the background. I'm like, censor, okay.
Going from one door to the next.
She's like, don't mind me. Yes, baby, open the door and leave. She just took a bath. I'm like, woo, baby in the back. I don't know why you're here by yourself, baby. Open the door, baby. I can't.
Sexiest bias. So I'll take over right now. Sexiest bias. Well, I think confirmation bias, and all of its many forms, I think brings the clicks.
Yeah.
To be honest, I think it's got so much versatility when explaining many of the things that humans do. So
yeah,
why not? So I think that one. Then hindsight bias is always good. But some of the lesser known biases, I'll give them a bit of a shout out. Some of the lesser known biases include things like the IKEA effect.
Yeah. I don't even know if I know that one, to be honest.
The IKEA effect is so named because when you buy a piece of furniture from IKEA, you have to build it.
Right.
And because you have put all of that time and effort into it, you like it more than if you were to buy that piece pre-built.
Oh, right. It's kind of like a cognitive dissonance in a way.
Yeah. To be honest with you, it fits that mold pretty well.
Yeah. But like more specific.
Well, and you like it a lot more, and you think it to be more. The word I kind of want is like a member of your family. So you're like, I love this thing.
Like legitimate love, like from within.
Yeah, like because I built it. So an example of the IKEA effect that exists in my life is when my wife and I were dating, and we were
This is already
together.
good. This is already good.
Yeah. When we were dating, we were living together, she wanted a bedside table. I had a bedside table from, I think, my grandmother's house. Can't remember. But I had a bedside table and she did not, and she wanted a bedside table, and this was our first apartment together. And so she bought one from IKEA because we lived in a place where IKEA exists. Where I live now, the closest IKEA is in Chicago.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, so that kind of sucks. But so she bought it from IKEA and she put it together, and she's like, no, I want to build it myself. And so I said, okay, build it yourself, do whatever. And the door, so it was a bedside table, so I had a little it had the table obviously, and then it was sort of like just a rectangular shape.
Yeah. And
then it had a just, I guess, bottom compartment with a door. And so the door acted on like a top hinge and a bottom hinge.
Yeah.
And so you just swung it out. Basically, it wasn't a fancy door mechanism. And she put the door in crooked. So the door was, instead of like straight up and down, it was at a slant. And so when it closed, it didn't look right. It looked like a dopey door. And so she's like, I love this bedside table because it is something that I made, and I don't care that it looks dopey, that it's that
it's more charming that way. It's more, it's my personal touch to it.
Right.
That's so funny.
Yeah, because like why would we care about inanimate objects if not for the amount of time and effort that we put into them? Consider you and we have kids. Yeah. Younger kids. Like, they're a lot of friggin' work.
They are a lot of work.
And so, like, we put a lot of time and effort into them, and it's just like, okay, I do want you to grow up so you can do this. Right? So we translate that desire toward living things, pets included, to inanimate objects through the IKEA effect, and I think it's the funniest thing ever.
That is really funny. I like what Mr. Cultist wrote here. He said, I thought the IKEA effect was when you think you could build something with just an Allen wrench. That's
give somebody a hex wrench and
and walk away slowly, right?
There you go. Okay, bye.
Let's observe the IKEA effect. Yeah. Oh man, thanks for sharing that one, because now I'm gonna just go around pointing to people and be like, I think you're experiencing some mad IKEA effect right now. Like,
hey, did you build that? It looks kind of jank.
Be like, don't make fun of it. I'm in love with this bedside table. That is so funny. Yeah. But coming back now to the confirmation bias. I think like that is definitely something that's super duper prevalent in today's world. And in some ways I don't know if I'd go so far as to say responsible for like the polarization of views, but I definitely think it has a huge pull right now.
It definitely has its hand in that polarization.
Yeah.
Yeah. So part of group polarization includes taking your opinion and when you add it to the group, the whole group attitude or opinion becomes more extreme. And so we iterate that over and over and over again, and you end up with these very extreme attitude groups.
Yeah.
And one of the things that fuels the iteration of I have a personal idea that becomes more extreme when I'm part of the group because of polarization, then the thing that feeds that idea is confirmation bias, because you get into a situation where you're like, okay, I have this idea. Okay, I gotta pick one. I'll just say climate change is real. We'll just start with that one. And then when somebody comes in a group fashion, and then that's getting amplified by like, okay, big oil's bad, fossil fuels are ridiculous, turning every everybody into walking time bomb, blah, 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 blah. And then it just keeps getting amplified. I'm hearing those things as somebody with a moderate, okay, yeah, climate change is real. And then I keep hearing all of that, like more and more and more and more progressive stuff. Then those become self-confirming thoughts. I'm like, oh yeah, this person is in my same group and he's saying this thing or she's saying this thing. And so that gets added to my belief, which then probably becomes more extreme, which makes the group more extreme, and so on and so forth.
So it's like refueling the fire over and over and over again. So it kind of seems like, and this is what I've always understood of it, and feel free to like confirm or deny, but from what I've understood is like confirmation bias grew out of this need for belonging and need for safety, and that safety in my group and that safety in numbers, so to speak. So again,
I haven't specifically heard that, but it wouldn't surprise me if that is genuinely a feature of how it evolved. Overall, the bias, I've been talking a lot today, so I have a little froggy throat. The bias, generally speaking, is probably one of our oldest evolutionary biases, because you can actually see primates do a proto version of confirmation bias. So it's one of our earliest biases, and the thing that it's for is to keep us alive. And so if confirmation bias isn't working, you end up doing things that are probably not going to be good for your prolonged health. So if part of staying alive was belonging and engaging in these social affiliative things, then yeah, I could totally see confirmation bias being intimately associated with those things.
Yeah. So in what ways were primates? That's fascinating. I didn't know that they showed any confirmation bias. I'd imagine like my pack stays together and goes hunting in this specific region. Is that what it's like?
Yeah, I mean, it can even be on the physiological and biological level with things like pheromones and other hormones that are used that humans don't really use anymore, but that are used to say that, you know, I am ready to copulate kind of thing. And so learning that association becomes a powerful tool for confirmation.
Wow. So then what ways do we break free from that to make sure that we're not going to like fall prey to it? Pun intended, I guess.
Yeah. So that's a really fascinating question. So, over the course of the next 14 or so months, I'm going to be writing my scripts for a video series on the great courses.
Right, yeah. Yeah, that's courses. Awesome.
And before I got my contract, they wanted me to do a pilot. And the course is about cognitive biases.
That's cool.
Like, what is he talking about with his bias? So excuse me. So the pilot that I had to do to actually get the contract, I think it was part like, does this guy know his stuff? And part like, is he camera ready?
Yeah.
So the pilot that I chose to do was confirmation bias, and the course is specifically called Understanding Cognitive Biases. And one of my aims in the actual course is to, and for each episode. So yeah, I think at this point it's going to be, I'm going to at least attempt to do it for each episode.
Yeah.
Is to explain like once you understand what it is and how it exists and when and why and what you use it, I sort of want to end each episode with, okay, so now that you know all of that, what can you do?
Yeah, what do you do? Right.
Right. So that brings me to your question, which is what I tried to answer at the end of my pilot episode on confirmation bias. And I'm going to give you the honest answer.
Okay.
It's mostly bad news.
Oh no, we can't.
We can't really, because that's not how we're built. That's not how evolution was like, you get big brain, but it's not very good. So we have all of these shortcuts to make this big old thing worth it.
Right.
And so one of those shortcuts is confirmation bias. It's not going to go anywhere, but there is a but.
Good.
Light at the end of the tunnel here, very tiny light, and it's going to take you a while to get there. Light at the end of the tunnel here is that once you understand how it operates, especially within like the, I'll just say political world right now, because that's the most prescient thing,
that's where it is right now. Yeah.
Once you recognize what it is, so once you are like you look for some evidence or you read a post or something like that, and you're like, wait, did I click on this post because I believe the headline? The headline was like, yeah, I believe that, and that's why I clicked on it. Now, knowing that, you can start building your repertoire of pausing, waiting a tick, and not feeding into it.
Oh, so it's like, don't give in to the urge, so to speak.
Yeah.
Whoa. But now I'm like reflecting back, because it's so easy to fall, especially today's world of the clickbaity kind of things that we have. It's so easy to fall, or like when your friends share something, or us, especially in the academic realm, when somebody that we respect shares something or shares some literature, you're like, oh, I know that guy, or I've worked with that guy, or I trust this guy. You're just like, yeah. Cool, I'm gonna click this thing. And then you're kind of like feeding more into your little river of consciousness, like your small little narrow river.
Our echo chambers, right?
Right, yeah.
The chambers that we shout things like humans cause climate change. I don't know why I'm on a climate change kick right now, but humans cause climate change. And so that goes out to the world, and then it comes right back to you. And as I was mentioning earlier, generally speaking, it comes back to you amplified because of group polarization.
Right.
So
you're like, yeah, duh, like everybody says so. Everybody, anybody who's anybody says so.
All this, everybody knows it. You know it. I know it. We all know it, right?
Right. Man.
These are my accordion hands.
So Sarah's saying, or hold on. So Root Guy first, he says, I think this also circles back to the wisdom of crowds. If the consensus in a group is X, then it's likely that that is the best known solution.
The wisdom of crowds.
Yeah.
It depends. The wisdom of crowds is not always that. I guess I'll call it a platitude. Is not generally speaking the case. Actually, the wisdom of the crowd could be a victim of groupthink, and groupthink has no naysayers, and so it's perhaps not the best solution. It might be even a terrible solution. This is literally what happened to JFK in the Bay of Pigs.
Yeah.
So in the Situation Room, JFK had all of his generals, the
advisors and all the big guys,
his cabinet and all of his advisors, and they're all like, do this one thing, and he goes and does the one thing and almost starts a nuclear war, and it's just like, oh my god. And
everyone's like, I didn't think he would really do that one thing. Oh, shit.
And after and afterwards, there's two afterwards things. One, JFK was like, never do that to me again. There needs to be at least one dissenter in all of my meetings. And then two, I forget who it was. It wasn't Robert. It was one of his other advisors who was well known by name. It's just the name slipping is on the tip of my tongue, and it's slipping me right now. But went on, did like an interview or something like this about this whole thing, and he said that he had reservations about the plan, but didn't say anything because he thought he would be the only dissenting voice, and he didn't want to play
that guy, right? It's like
he didn't want to play John like that,
right?
And it ultimately went and shot. He basically shot himself in the foot because he didn't dissent.
Right. It's like not even trusting your own thoughts to even express that thought. Sarah asks, so are you saying we should only feed our brains with viewpoints that don't align with our views as a way to learn, or just that we should avoid it with social media?
That's a good question, Sarah. And I can see chat here too. I have I have the stream open.
Nice.
So I would say the answer to that is no. Read whatever makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And if it is confirming, well, it made you feel good.
At least there's that, right?
I would say if you have decent relationships with people who are on different sides of the spectrum as you, whatever the issue might be, but you respect them as a person, then I don't see a need to silence that voice and allow them to be a part of your chamber, maybe a hole in that chamber so it comes out. But to the second point, I think we all could do well with avoiding social media just in general.
Yeah.
I don't spend as much time on Facebook anymore because like 2.5 weeks ago I turned off all of my like/reaction notifications. I don't get those anymore.
Yeah.
And so I spend far less, one, on the app, and two, looking at who has liked or ha-ha'd or love-hearted my posts. Yeah. So I'm finding that that's actually helped a lot in my social media consumption. I spend far more time on Discord these days.
Yeah.
And my screen time app will back that up.
That tested that. Yeah, myself included, I think, especially once COVID began and everything was going haywire, that's when I took the plunge and I was like, delete it all, just nuke the whole thing. I don't want to be in, I don't want to put myself in the rabbit hole of people's lives. Being like, who said what to who, and who did that to what, and who, who liked this, or who angry faced that. I'm just just delete it all. I don't need it. I want to go back to 1998 and just live that's just me personally. You don't have to do that, chat, but me personally, I find I'm so much happier the less of the group influence is upon me, so to speak.
Yeah.
I guess the deeper question would even be, is it even necessary to worry about confirmation bias? When does it become necessary to worry about it?
Well, that's a good question, because it becomes necessary to worry about confirmation bias for things that are happening now. So I'm sure that everyone here is familiar with QAnon.
Oh yes, I've heard.
So there's a big problem in this country with people thinking that Democrats run child trafficking rings to drink their blood and do all sorts of weird things. Take that idea for a minute.
Yeah. And
just really think about it, and whether or not that sounds like something in a movie. not based on real life. But
Right.
here's the thing, trying to talk to somebody who doesn't recognize that themselves. And Anderson Cooper had a really interesting interview a few weeks ago with somebody who is an XQ.
Uh-huh. Oh, wow. Yeah, I'll have to check that out.
And he literally apologized to Anderson during that interview, and so they aired it, saying, I'm sorry, I believed you specifically, Anderson Cooper, drank children's blood.
Wow.
That was probably the wildest thing about it. It's like he literally believed the guy he was talking to drank children's blood.
Yeah, I have no
And
words.
so-
Like, I have no words
So
for that.
it's like, yeah, we do need, I think, confirmation bias, as ingrained as we are with it, and it's not gonna go anywhere.
Yeah.
Because it's just how our brain works. It's still important to recognize that, okay, don't fall into this whole Q mess. So don't read about Q.
Right.
Don't go down that rabbit hole, because as soon as you start going down that rabbit hole, it becomes more and more and more confirmatory.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh yeah, that's what they do. That's what they do. That's what they do. And that kind of behavior is what led to the craziness on January 6th at the Capitol.
Right. So one part of me is wondering then if there needs to be some sort of, because I mean, I always think about this from also like a design perspective, and what kind of human design can we do to like help us be better at being human, which sounds so weird. It's like, I need assistance with being, where's my operating manual? You know? But
Yeah, exactly.
Part of me wonders, like, would it benefit us, and I'm just pulling out of my ass at the moment, would it benefit us to have things be posted anonymously, not to the extent of like just open range things, but it's like within your network, let's say within the realm of your Facebook, it has to be one of your friends who posted X, Y, or Z, but you don't know which one. It's just like posted by one of your anonymous friends.
Okay.
Here's some information, or this is, even if we can even go like into, let's say, even study, like here's research out of Harvard, or out of like an Ivy League school. I'm not going to tell you which one. I'm not going to tell you who is the author until you read through the end, or something like that. I don't know. Like I said, I'm just like thinking of like some solutions to kind of help mitigate, like you said, like when we click on something, why did we click on it?
Yeah.
Do you think any realm of I can never say the word, anonymity?
Anonymity?
Yeah, thank you. That one. That is the word. I'm never great at...
Banana.
Elmer Fudd over here. Like,
Yeah.
But do you think that could help in some ways? Or going maybe the other way and having it be like more disclosure, like especially again with peer-reviewed articles, going so far as to be like, here's the here's the article, here are the authors, which we already do, but here is who reviewed this specific manuscript, like here are the reviewers, have that be like fully transparent. So I guess two different poles, right? Do we go to more transparency, or do we go through to like being behind the window number
always
one?
More transparency. I'm going to advocate always for more transparency.
Yeah.
The more you know how things work, the more informed you are, and the more informed you are, the better decisions you make.
Right.
So yeah, I'm always going to be for more transparency.
Yeah.
But to the earlier part of the question is like, do we just post anonymous things, like remove all of the data or information that could be biasing?
Yeah.
I think you'd have a pretty boring life.
I mean, that's true.
You'd have a pretty boring read.
Yeah.
go through news articles that have no context.
Right. The shock factor. There is something to be said about the shock factor, or like the emotional factor that pulls you in, right?
Yeah. So I don't want to say that confirmation bias is bad,
right?
Or the biases that are like it. I don't want to say that they're bad. They just get us into trouble
sometimes. Yeah.
And when there's a lot of trouble,
then it's like
at the same time, then we have a problem, right?
Right.
But yeah, and you're right, yeah. It gets us into trouble sometimes. Most of the time, it's fine.
Yeah.
Most of the time, and I think most people can agree that most days we kind of just go through the motions.
Yeah.
We kind of just wake up, eat, work if we can.
Right.
Go to sleep. Like, each day doesn't have to be different.
Yeah.
And sometimes a non-different day is better for our mental and emotional health because we get to just sort of glide through on autopilot.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good point too. It's like these biases exist not always that's not always a bad thing, right? And one thing I always try to tell my students is sometimes I might talk, and when we're in like intro psychology, I might make it seem like it's one thing or the other. It's very black or white, but life is very in the middle. It's very grayscale. It's all over the place, right? You hope that you just make people aware so that they can do better in life.
Yep.
That's really the ultimate goal, is just be better, do better. Use it for good. I always say use it for good. Try not to use it for evil.
Exactly.
Because this stuff can turn either way, right?
Yeah, it can. And, but I like to give, I like to give people the benefit of the doubt first. So we'll see what happens.
Exactly. Let's see what Root Guy just says. Served me well starting the week from the shaft, being contrarian, but it's also is expensive socially. People will assume that I hold the belief I'm arguing rather than me challenging their point. And that is a great point in and of itself, Root Guy. Like, me too. Like, I play devil's advocate a lot, simply so I can learn more. It's like the curse of knowledge, I guess, or the curse of wanting knowledge. And sometimes I fall into the same trap where people are like, oh, so that's what you believe? I'm like, no, I'm literally just asking, like, have you thought of it this way? Or have you turned it upside down or looked at it from this angle, or, considered people's life circumstances that brought them to, X or whatever.
Yeah. I think though people get turned off by saying, and I've been, since someone reframed this idea for me a few years ago, I've been trying not to use it, which is playing devil's advocate. I would never want to be the advocate for the devil.
And you know what? That is great.
So I like how I like how you rephrased it though. Like, I'm just trying to get you to see, have you looked at it this way? I think that's totally appropriate,
right?
As long as the have you looked at it this way isn't asinine or inane in some way, then right. Or potentially adds harm or something like that. I'd be like, no, I don't think I need to see it. That I don't think the police need spiked boots. I'm just saying. I don't care if they're sparkly.
Right.
I don't think they need spiked boots. So yeah, I totally agree that sometimes you do need to let people explore other options so you can beat the group think and the group polarization, as I mentioned earlier.
Right.
So I mean, Root Guy, what I would say is, if you don't want people to think that you're arguing for arguing's sake, by being a contrarian, I mean, pick your battles on being a contrarian, and with whom is all I would say.
That's sound advice. I mean, I'm taking that advice for myself as well because I've had to make those decisions too, where I'm like, I'm talking to a brick wall, and why am I doing this?
Yeah.
it's not benefiting anybody at this point. So
I hear it
yeah.
all the time with my MBTI stuff, where where the MBTI is the devil's advocate.
You're
so
like, MBTI.
So I got an email when our first MBTI article went out a couple of years ago. Oh wow, 3 years ago almost now. Saying that I just don't know enough about it, and I should take this guy's course because like he has a website and he teaches people how to understand themselves better. If you pay him a fee, and I was just like, what? And like so anything we write about the MBTI, I don't go to the comment section because it's just going to be full of people who are like, but no, it's awesome and it's amazing. And that's not so I don't pick those battles.
Right. You're like, you know what? To each their, sometimes it's like, if that's what makes you feel comfortable. We were talking about comfort earlier. In the chat, somebody was asking me, I don't even know if they're still here, but they were asking me personally if my religiosity conflicts with my scientific study, particularly in psychology, and how humans have a need sometimes for comfort's sake. So
I was talking about this earlier today.
Oh yeah? Do you have any wisdom or nuggets to share?
Well, so I've been on Twitch, like this is my third time on Twitch today.
I saw the notifications earlier. I'm like, wow, busy man.
Yeah. So we had a snow day today, but the admin gave us I guess permission to hold class remotely. So
Cool.
That's what I did for my 2 classes today. But in my afternoon class, we were talking about how Darwin and the theory of evolution sort of plays into the history of psychology, because that was the class. It was the history of psychology.
Nice.
And so we're sort of on this converging wood of the 1800s where Darwin proposed his theory, and people were getting really, really interested in how humans work. And a couple of just random Twitch viewers that I don't think I've seen before came in and started talking about their understanding of evolution, and they were super nice people, and they were just like, this is the idea. And one guy was sort of I guess maybe Twitch shortening his art because it was chat, right? So he was shortening his argument, and he made a dichotomy about God made the world versus evolution explains everything about the variety of life on this planet.
Okay.
And I said, well, that's a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
For one thing, there's a lot of space in between there. And for the other thing is that, and this is to your point, sorry, I went around like several bushes to get to my point.
That's wonderful, yeah.
I said religion or spirituality and science are separate worlds, and they can coexist. And I would be willing to bet that more than half of all scientists in this world who believe in evolution and also a religion can do so with the understanding that maybe there is some aspect of creation that involves evolution, and that the creation stories that are in the religions themselves, because everyone has creation stories, are just allegories for a way to simply put how the world came to be. And those two can exist in the same person without discrepancy.
That's cool. Yeah, that's essentially what I said earlier as well. So it was cool to hear it from your perspective too. So people don't think it's just me. It's not just me, right?
Right. And I will add that awareness comes
Yeah.
from a person who is not religious,
Yeah.
is not spiritual. I wouldn't go as far as calling myself an atheist, but
Yeah.
I am on that path.
Yeah.
I am on that side. And that's just I don't go, you know, why are you a scientist
It's
if
like,
you believe
that
in
doesn't make
some
any sense.
imaginary person,
Right.
You dumb. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. People have their beliefs for whatever reason,
Right.
and they're free to have them as
Yeah,
long as it doesn't harm
and
anyone.
it's the same the other way around too, right? Like, I don't see, like you said, I see it as coexisting. You can
Yeah.
hold both beliefs at the same time, and I don't
without
look
discrepancy. I
right.
think that's very
Exactly.
important. Without
and
dissonance.
I actually like that addition there, that without discrepancy, because I think that's an important point too. That these ideas really don't have to collide the way that some people can make it out to be. So that was really neat. That was
Yeah,
neat.
and I think that a great many, and we'll just talk of the Abrahamic religions for a sec, because the creation story is essentially the same,
They're the same,
across
yeah.
all three.
Right.
Like somebody who lives in one of those three major religions can say to themselves, I believe evolution to be true as an explanation for the variety of life on this planet and how it got here. But you know who sparked it?
That dude, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Very cool stuff. Very cool. And you know what? Sometimes I'm like, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. Like, at the end of the day, I'm like, we're just living. Each of us just wants to, like, live and get to point X. And I just see this as, like, minute detail that it's like, you know, I don't know. Maybe I'm the weird one. I'm like, I don't get wrapped up in these, like, minutia detail. But, you know, maybe that's just me. That's just me.
No, I try not to.
Yeah.
Sometimes my anxiety gets the better of me, and I do, but for the most part, I try not to.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like, I try to live on, like, a more, like, in a more meta place. It's like, just look at the big picture, you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, in that realm, one of the world's most famous and perhaps consequential scientists, Isaac Newton, was an extreme man of faith.
Yeah. I mean, that's, like you said, historically, if you look at some of the big dudes, because there was a lot of dudes back then, they were religious. So I don't think that they have to be two separate entities all the time. So cool. Like I said, I don't know if that person's still in here, but hope everyone else at least got some fun nuggets out of that one.
Yeah, Sarah, I imagine that Da Vinci was too. I mean, we know that Galileo was heartbroken when the church excommunicated him.
Right.
And locked him up into his
called him
workshop.
Crazy.
Yeah.
House arrest.
Yeah, he was heartbroken.
Yeah. The people who ask too many questions and think weird and great things, right?
Right.
Like, how dare you, sir? It's like, I just thought it was awesome. Like, I thought it would be cool to, like, explore the world that God gave us, right? Like, why not explore? You know, air quotes on the, you know, the God part.
The world doesn't revolve around us.
Right, like, ooh, what a thought. You
I'm
know?
just throwing it out here that maybe we're on a rock going around something else. just gonna say.
Sounds pretty accurate to me. All right, but I did want to bring it back because I did have a question to you to see if you had any insight on the Dunning-Kruger effect.
Yes, Dunning-Kruger effect. This is going to be one of my episodes.
Oh, great.
I'm going to pair it with something that you actually mentioned earlier in passing, which was the curse of knowledge, and the curse of expertise. So I'm going to compare the two in this episode. So you get a little bit of a preview, and literally no preview. I just wrote a few bullet points about it.
I'm happy to be your test subject.
So Dunning-Kruger effect, for those who aren't familiar, is the lack of understanding, we'll call it, we'll put it delicately, the lack of understanding of low skill or low expertise people on the extent of their lack of knowledge. So that is to say, if I don't know a lot about, I don't know, forklifts, I don't know why I thought about forklifts, but if I don't know how forklifts work, then I could be experiencing the Dunning-Kruger effect if I start talking about how forklifts work to other people and go, yeah, you know, forklifts, they have this like gear and they put it up and it's like, oh no, you don't want to put that one on that forklift because it will fall over. But you know, the kinds of forklifts that can like really move stuff are the ones that don't actually have wheels. They have those like rubber funnel thingies so they can spin around. Like that would be the Dunning-Kruger effect for me on forklifts.
For forklifts.
And especially if I was talking to somebody who knew more about forklifts than I did.
And they would be like, rubber thingies, seriously?
Rubber thingies, yeah, exactly. Do you even know what those are called? Yeah, no, rubber thingies.
Right. That's the technical term, you know?
Technical, exactly. So, and then the curse of knowledge is what you were saying, like, how do I explain this to somebody who doesn't have the same knowledge that I do? And the curse is that I don't recognize that most of the time. I'll just start explaining things in expertise terms, and they'll be like, what? And so teachers have to constantly battle the curse of knowledge, especially if they have to teach something that is not related to their expertise, or if it's just outside of their expertise or something like that. They're a little slower and more clunky at explanations, and you see on course evaluations that you see more of things like they didn't really seem like they knew that they were talking about, or I found it difficult to follow in this class, or you know, I didn't understand what the professor was saying, XYZ. So putting those two together is the idea for the episode. But back to Dunning-Kruger. So what you end up seeing more often, and what is like the timely idea about it, is people will speak to things that they don't know anything about, and will come off as more ignorant because they don't understand their lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
And where their holes in knowledge are. They'll feel confident about it, even though, because they don't know where that stuff is.
Yeah.
Where their holes are, they'll feel more confident about it because they don't know that they have the holes.
Right, for sure. You just reminded me, by the way, of like when non-parents are like, oh, well, very simple, this is how you should discipline your kid, or this is exactly what you should do with kids, and I'm like listen. Like, no, first
Step
of all,
back.
Just no. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
yeah. Or the situation that you see quite a bit on social media is that people will post a thing and then somebody will come in and actually them, and it's like, you're in the same college class as me, like, how are you actuallying me? And then it rears its head in the very fun, and when I say fun, I'm /s sarcasm, mansplaining.
Yes. So Sarah brought that up. What can you tell us about that?
Mansplaining. Okay, so let me see what her comment. Yeah, so mansplaining is literally the gendered Dunning-Kruger effect, Sarah. It is. It's the Dunning-Kruger effect wearing the skin of a man.
Wearing the skin of a man.
Wearing the skin of a very insecure man.
That is
who can't
great.
handle a woman knowing more about something than they do. So there you go.
I'm gonna definitely use that in the future. That's really funny. It's like, listen, you might not know because you're a woman. It's like, let me stop you right there.
Yeah, right. I mean, I hope I have never tried to mansplain anything.
Oh man, something Karen. Yeah.
Oh,
the Karens.
So Sarah, you were
too.
asking, is there if a woman does this to a man?
Yeah.
I
also don't like the Karen thing because I'm like, oh, poor Karen. Like, there's a Karen out there who's actually really awesome.
Yeah,
I know bad.
one. I know Karen. Karen Brocky Compton. She's at Spelman. She's at Spelman College. Yeah,
Nice.
She's a wonderful Karen. I mean, the idea is Karen, unfortunately, I imagine, but it's sort of out of that realm. It depends on what the Karen is saying. Now, so there was the woman in Central Park, I think. I don't remember when it was. Was it in 2019? I vaguely remember this, but so this is my example for a DK Karen. Unfortunately, I don't have another term for you, Sarah. I'm sorry.
A DK. We'll just call them DKs.
Yeah. So for a female DK here, so this woman was walking her dog in Central Park, and she came across a black man doing the same thing, and I can't remember what she was super angry about. Like maybe I want to say maybe it had to do with his dog was not on a leash or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it was. Maybe somebody can excuse me. Somebody
Like
can look that up.
Yeah.
But she got all in his face and said that he wasn't allowed to do that. So in that case, I would say that's a female DK there. There was a more recent one of a woman who did not want to wear a mask inside a Planet Fitness, and she was standing there explaining to the poor employee, and then to the manager no, it was the security guard, sorry, not the manager, that she wasn't gonna wear a mask to work out because this, and this. Like spouting off things like, well, first of all, it was her freedom, and then second of all, things like I can't breathe, and that's going to be dangerous to do that while I'm exercising, etc., etc. You know, a lot of BS arguments.
Right.
In a private business.
Right. Who even outside of the world of COVID can make up whatever the hell rules they want. Right? It's like this is their business and they can run it as they see appropriate. Yeah,
exactly.
Right.
I wanted to return 1 second to the religion and science thing, because I saw Bill's message here, and I thought it was great. I am that patient that improved with a higher power, and most here know that I stand very solidly for objective science, but objective science doesn't give me a why to keep trying. Oh, it gives me a why, but I can understand your why being different, Bill. Who, what, where, when, how are objective questions for science, but why is where faith steps in.
That's very interesting.
I mean, that's a great thing. I definitely give you that. I can see a why for me not having to have faith, but yeah. That's why I wanted to return to it, because I thought it was really good.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for circling back to that. That was really good.
Yeah, back to Dunning-Kruger, though. The Freddy Krueger effect.
Mr. Cultist. That's really great.
That one's really great because I mean,
man.
they defeat him every single time.
Somebody needs to make a meme out of that. A Psych meme. That's a perfect Psych meme.
It is.
Oh,
so
man.
Good.
So funny. So.
Oh, Bill, you got it. Okay, I had it backwards. Woman wasn't using leash. Black man asked her to use the leash. Okay, so that was not a good example that I brought up. I'm glad I brought up the Planet Fitness lady because, yeah, the park was the opposite. Not a Karen.
Not a Karen. Not a female DK.
There you go.
Maybe we could start spreading that. The DKs. The DKs. So, Coxside Prof, I know you don't have too much time left, and I want to respect your time. So, I'm going to hand the floor to you if there's anything on your heart or your mind or something you feel like the world needs to know about the world of cognitive biases or even heuristics. I mean, anything.
Yeah. So, one thing that I say after I'm done talking about biases and heuristics on my cognitive psych class, teach it every fall.
Yeah.
One thing that I say after I'm done, and this is basically back half of the semester, almost to the end. Like this is the third to the last lecture, because I go from low order cognition all the way up to higher order cognition. And what I say is this: I say just in general, we talk about the errors that we see in human thinking because we come from the presupposition that our brains are these super amazing things that are supposed to be super awesome because there's these super amazing things. They're like computers, you know? And we don't, and we focus on the errors that we make because that's what we can observe, right? Yeah. We observe when things don't work properly a lot of the time. We observe when things do work properly as well, but we observe when things don't work properly. Like that's the whole field of psychopathology is like, this is when the brain is disordered.
Right, abnormal now, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. So I say that we focus on those things because that's what we see. And that tells us when things maybe could be better or are better.
Yeah.
But even though we focus on these things, we should still like recognize that our brain is really freaking awesome, but not because of what it is, but for what it can do.
Yeah.
We are the only animal that has converted subvocalizations and vocalizations into a symbolic communication system. We're apparently the only one that can do complex reasoning beyond what is if P then Q, Q happens, like cause and modus ponens, cause and effect kind of thing. We organize our memories. We can report back our memories. Like it's a really friggin' cool organ that allows us to experience the world in a far different way than any other animal, even our closest genetic neighbors, chimps and bonobos. Like it allows us to be in the world and experience it in a way that I think is really phenomenal. And we have these biases, which sometimes do get us into trouble. And when the wrong person ends up falling victim to their own brain, we end up with a cascade of problems.
Right.
So it can get us into trouble, but I tell everyone that these are what humans are.
Yeah.
Love it and embrace it, feel it, enjoy it, It's the only brain
Enjoy
you get.
it. It is the only brain you get.
It's the only brain you get. You get to use it once,
Right.
and that's it.
Right. Yeah, for sure. Because to my knowledge, I could totally be wrong, but I don't think there has been a successful brain transplant. I'm pretty sure that has not happened.
No, it'd be a different person.
Right.
It would literally be Frankenstein's monster.
Right. I was like, that's where the philosophy comes in. Of who is the self and what, consciousness versus brain machinery versus.
Could you be downloaded into a computer like all of the sci-fi
transcend
movies and
whatever.
transcendence and things like that.
Yeah.
Could you really be downloaded into a computer? And the answer is no, because our brain, while it does have some computing power, and it does it pretty quickly because it's a bioelectrical process,
right?
It's not a computer, and I wouldn't want a computer for a brain. I'm gonna tell you right now. I mean, there's no upside to using more energy than what it is. Yeah, our brain needs about 20% of our daily resources.
Right.
But it's useful.
Yeah.
It's a useful 20%. And imagine if it was 50% or 80% of our daily thing. We'd be just blobs on the ground.
It'd be too much. For sure.
So we got it down to a slick 20%, and we do pretty damn good with that 20% of our daily resource allowance.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I love all you other scientists out there. I mean, my second favorite science is chemistry. Weirdly enough, I know most people would think it would probably be biology, but it's not. I love the chemistry, biology, physics, all of that stuff is good. But psychology, man, to study the thing that we are and the thing that we're given in our own heads, and the simple fact that we still don't know a lot. It's just so amazingly fascinating. It's like this, to me, this is the best science on earth, right?
It is. And I've been trying to tell Melko that for months now. He gets to study his favorite science because I study my favorite science.
Right. It's like, be thankful that we even know what works in that brain of yours, sir.
Yeah, exactly. And Sarah, your personal bias is physics. Well, math. Whatever, man. Math don't work for us.
Building bridges.
Yeah, exactly.
Who needs that?
What is this engineering thing?
Ridiculous. We don't need that. So good. So good. I'm sure we can beef on each other all night too. But
yeah, that would be a fun stream.
Oh, that would be
individuals in chat. Let's do that. And Bill, I saw your comment about the speed of light. I just want to let you know. I mean, fair enough. The why why nothing can exceed the speed of light.
That's something definitely for me to reflect on.
That one.
Yeah, I want to reflect on this. This is why I love streaming and talking to people, because I love knowledge. I love learning. It's the learning is never over.
Logo files.
Yeah, for real, guys.
Words are sexy. Yeah, exactly.
Indeed, man. Indeed. Bring it on. Feel free to roast me anytime. We should have that'd be a fun stream. Get a bunch of us to just roast each other, like Twitch education roast. Just see who wins.
Yeah.
Just a goofing off stream. I mean, I feel like we need more of those.
I would say don't bet against me. I would say that. Don't bet against me. Because I roasted Melko pretty hard when he was doing that IQ test.
Oh man. I have to say,
PKF roast night. Yeah, Sarah.
Let's do it. I think it needs to be organized. Why not? It doesn't always have to be all education all the time.
Right. Right.
So
We got to bring the entertainment some other way.
yeah, for real.
Sometimes.
And we're some pretty funny people, I gotta say. We got a great group of people. Lots of really colorful individuals, to put it in a fun
true.
way, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I think it could be a lot of fun to have like a chill TKF stream night or something.
Yeah, Sarah. Yeah, that's true. Some ways to soften those blows. Oh, put some balm on. Oh, that hurt.
That's great. That's awesome. Well, Psych Prof, I could talk to you all night long for hours and hours. Mm-hmm. I appreciate you. I love what you do. And thank you for
thank you for having me on. This was a great convo. I really enjoy it. Even though I'm twitched out for today.
You're like, I am done. I don't want to look at a computer.
This was a great convo. I'm sorry my throat was froggy, but
I mean, hey, for the first half, my toddler was screaming in everyone's ears. So I kept hitting like the mute button. I was like, please, no more screaming. So if only there was a mute button in real life, right? Like, where is this mute button? How do I function? How does this toddler operate? But anyways,
right back.
I hope you have a wonderful rest of your night, and I'll catch you some other time.
Yeah, thank you.
All right,
and
man.
I'll see everyone later. Bye.
Bye,
Thanks for having me.